October 7th, 1944. The skies over Lake Müritz, Germany. A lone American reconnaissance pilot, flying a mission deemed routine, scans the horizon. His aircraft is a relic, a design from a fading era, powered by a single propeller engine. His eyes sweep the empty blue, until they aren't empty. On his tail, closing at an unthinkable rate, are 8 dark shapes. Shapes that move without propellers, shapes that scream with a sound born of a new and terrible science. They are Messerschmitt Me 262 Schwalbes, the world's first operational jet fighters. Faster than anything the Allies possess. Hunters sent to kill him. He has one choice: run. But in a propeller-driven plane, outrunning a jet is not just improbable, it is impossible. This is the story of how one man, in an aircraft everyone doubted, faced 8 jets of the future and lived to tell the tale. Our story begins not in the cockpit, but on the drafting tables of the Republic Aviation Corporation in Farmingdale, New York. The year is 1940. The United States Army Air Corps needed a new long-range, high-altitude fighter. The answer was the P-47 Thunderbolt, a beast of a machine, weighing over 7 tons fully loaded, built around a massive 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney radial engine. Pilots called it the Jug for its juggernaut-like appearance. It was tough, it could carry a devastating payload, and it could dive faster than any other aircraft in the sky. But it was not sleek. It was not, by late war standards, fast in a climb or at level flight compared to the latest German piston engine fighters. But one man saw potential others missed. His name was Lieutenant Colonel Joseph L. Lou Thury, the commander of the 19th Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, part of the 10th Photographic Group, 9th Air Force. Thury wasn't interested in dogfighting. His squadron's job was to get eyes over enemy territory, to photograph troop movements, fortifications, and factories. Speed was life. Survival depended on getting in, getting the pictures, and getting out before the Luftwaffe could react. Thury had a theory. He took the massive, thunderous P-47D airframe and began to strip it. He ordered the removal of all 8 of its half-inch caliber Browning machine guns. He had the heavy gun mounts and ammunition trays torn out. Every non-essential ounce of armor plating was discarded. The result was a P-47 unlike any other. They called it the Superbolt. This stripped-down reconnaissance variant shed nearly 2 tons of weight. With its sleek new contours and polished skin, it wasn't just lighter, it was transformed. Preliminary tests showed a staggering increase in performance. This Jug could now cruise at over 440 miles per hour. In a dive, it could approach the sound barrier. The pilots were skeptical. A P-47 without guns? It was a sitting duck. But Thury believed in raw, unadulterated speed. He believed it was the one weapon that could bring his men home. By October 1944, the war was pressing into the heart of the Third Reich. The Allies needed constant intelligence on the chaotic German retreat and the movements of their secret weapons. The pilots of the 19th TRS, flying from your base in France, were on the front line of this invisible war. And one of Thury's best was a young first lieutenant from Chicago named Robert J. Bob O'Hurley. The morning of October 7th dawned clear and cold. The mission briefing was precise. First Lieutenant O'Hurley was to fly his modified, gunless P-47D, serial number 4274615, on a solo photo reconnaissance mission deep into northeastern Germany. His targets were railway junctions and suspected V-2 rocket facilities around the city of Neubrandenburg, a region thick with flak and buzzing with the last desperate remnants of the Luftwaffe. His route would take him over the pristine waters of Lake Müritz. He was alone, No wingman, no escort. His only defense was the throttle and his wits. At 10:47 hours, O'Hurley lifted his lightweight jug from the steel-matted runway. The aircraft, unburdened by guns, felt alive, eager. It climbed swiftly to 32,000 feet, its engine a steady, powerful drone. The world below became a miniature map, peaceful and silent. For over an hour he worked, the automated cameras in his fuselage clicking methodically as he traced his plotted lines over the enemy landscape. The flak bursts, dark puffs of cotton far below, were inaccurate at this altitude. It was a quiet, professional mission. Little did O'Hurley know that his clean, polished aircraft, glinting in the high-altitude sun, had been spotted. A report had flashed to the operations room of Yog-Gishwater 7 Nowotny, the first operational jet fighter wing in history. Commanded by the legendary ace Major Theodor Weissenberger, JG-7 was equipped with the crown jewel of German technology, the Me-262. This aircraft was a quantum leap. Powered by two Junkers Umo 004 turbojets, it had a top speed of 540 miles per hour, nearly 100 miles per hour faster than any Allied frontline fighter. It mounted 4 devastating 30mm Mk-108 cannons that could shred a heavy bomber in a single burst. To the men flying piston-engine planes, the 262 was a ghost, a predator from tomorrow. At the airfield at Brandenburg-Brest, the alert sirens wailed. 8 Me-262s were scrambled. Their orders were simple: intercept and destroy the high-flying American reconnaissance plane. It was to be a demonstration of German technological supremacy. 8 jets against 1 unarmed propeller plane. It was to be a slaughter. By 12:15 hours, O'Hurley had completed his photo run. He banked his P-47 westward toward home and safety. He began a slow descent, conserving fuel, the adrenaline of the target run fading. Then a flicker in his mirror, then another. Tiny specks far behind, but growing with impossible speed. His blood ran cold. He knew that profile. Everyone did. The tailless, shark-like silhouette of the Me-262. 1, 2, 4. He counted 8 distinct trails of heat shimmering behind them. 8 jets, a full swarm and more. They were already splitting into attack elements. The hunt was on. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped Bob O'Hurley. His mind raced through the options his training provided. He couldn't fight. He had no guns. He couldn't hide. There was no cloud cover. The only asset he had was the modified machine around him. He pushed the throttle forward to the stops. The mighty Pratt & Whitney radial roared in response. The airspeed indicator began to climb. 425, 435, 440 miles per hour. He was now flying his jug faster than it had ever been designed to fly in level flight. But behind him, the 8 specks morphed into identifiable aircraft. He could see the distinct shape of their engines. They were still gaining. The first 2 Me-262s, led by an eager young pilot, closed the distance with terrifying efficiency. The gap shrank from miles to mere thousands of yards in seconds. O'Hurley, his heart hammering against his ribs, did the only thing he could. He nosed the heavy Thunderbolt over into a shallow dive, aiming for thicker air where his control surfaces would be more effective. The altimeter unwound, 30,000 feet, 28,000, 25,000. The engine screamed, the wind shrieked over his polished canopy. His speed surged past 450, edging toward 475. The P-47 began to vibrate, a deep bass shudder warning him of the transonic forces gathering at his wingtips. Behind him, the lead German jet pilot lined up for a deflection shot. At 1,000 yards, well within range, he squeezed the trigger. A torrent of 30mm shells, each the size of a milk bottle, streaked toward the American plane. But O'Hurley,
watching the tracers, made a minute, instinctive correction. The high-velocity shells passed just behind his tail, a line of fiery death missing by feet. The 262, committed to its firing pass, overshot in a blur, its speed now a liability. It had one chance, and O'Hurley's tiny jink had spoiled it.
But as the first attacker climbed away, the second was already in position, and a third pair was banking to cut him off. O'Hurley was now the fox in a field of cheetahs. He threw his aircraft into a series of gentle, rolling turns, never committing to a hard maneuver that would bleed his precious speed. He could not outturn them, but he could make their gunnery solutions a nightmare. Another burst of cannon fire ripped through the air to his left. He felt the concussive thump of a near miss vibrate through the airframe. The crisis was now absolute. He was at 18,000 feet. 8 of the most advanced fighters in the world were taking coordinated passes at him. His fuel was draining rapidly from the maximum power sprint. The jets, though faster, had a critical weakness. Their engines were temperamental, slow to spool up, and drank fuel at an astonishing rate in dogfights. Their pilots were under orders to make quick, slashing attacks and disengage, but O'Hurley didn't know that. All he knew was the relentless pursuit. A 30mm shell exploded just below his right wing, punching a hole in the flap and sending a shudder of damage through the controls. Warning lights flickered on his panel. The smell of cordite and hot oil seeped into the cockpit. He was wounded. He was alone. And the hunters were learning his rhythm. One of the German pilots, more experienced, had stopped trying for a direct tail shot. Instead, he climbed above O'Hurley, planning a devastating high-side attack, a tactic that would give him a massive speed advantage and a stationary target. O'Hurley saw the jet climb, a dark cross against the sun. He was trapped. If he turned, he'd present his broadside to another attacker. If he dove steeper, he risked tearing his own wings off or entering thicker, more dangerous flak. If he held course, the diving jet would fill his sky with cannon fire. For Bob O'Hurley, in that frozen second at 18,000 feet over Germany, the war had narrowed to this single, inescapable point of death. In that moment of stark terror, training and instinct fused. He remembered the one legendary attribute of the Thunderbolt, the thing even the jets couldn't match: its dive performance. The P-47 was built like a bank vault. In a powered dive, it was the fastest object in the sky. It was the one card he had left to play. As the high 262 tipped over into its attack dive, O'Hurley didn't try to evade laterally. He did the opposite. He slammed the stick forward, rolled inverted, and pulled the nose straight down toward the earth. It was a move of sheer, desperate audacity. The G-forces slammed him into his seat, his vision tunneling. The engine, already at max power, howled as the aircraft accelerated with ferocious, unnatural force. The airspeed needle leapt past 500 miles per hour. It quivered past 550. The aircraft began to shake violently, the controls stiffening. He was in a terminal velocity dive, the landscape of Mecklenburg swelling horrifyingly fast in his windscreen. The diving Me-262 pilot was stunned. He pushed his own nose down to follow, but almost immediately his jet began to buffet, the controls vibrating dangerously. The Me-262 had compressibility problems. At extremely high speeds in a dive, air would pile up in front of the wings, making the elevators useless. The pilot fought the stick, but his aircraft was becoming a runaway train. He was forced to pull out, his attack broken. O'Hurley, now a bullet in a screaming descent, watched his altimeter spin down. 10,000 feet, 8,000, 5,000. The jets above, wary of the thickening air and the phenomenal speed of the diving Thunderbolt, held back. They could follow, but they couldn't safely match that rate of descent. For the first time, the gap between hunter and prey stopped closing. O'Hurley was exploiting the one physical law that favored him: sheer, weight-driven momentum. At 3,000 feet, With the green forests and gray lakes rushing up to meet him, he began the most dangerous part of the maneuver. He had to pull out. Slowly, with immense physical strength, he began to draw back on the stick. The G-forces returned, crushing him, demanding blackout. 4Gs, 5Gs, the airframe groaned in protest. Rivets popped. The damaged flap screamed in the wind. But the jug held. It began to level out, just 1,000 feet above the treetops, a blur of olive drab and silver. He was now flying at treetop level at over 500 miles per hour. The jets, high above, were faced with a dilemma. To follow him into this ultra-low-level environment at such speeds was suicidal for their delicate engines, which could ingest debris. Their fuel gauges were dipping into the red. One by one, the Me-262s broke off the pursuit, climbing back to altitude to return to their base. The impossible had happened. Through a combination of his aircraft's unique capabilities, a pilot's cool-headed nerve under fire, and the tactical limitations of the very machine sent to kill him, Bob O'Hurley had outrun them all. Bruised, exhausted, and flying a badly damaged aircraft, First Lieutenant Robert J. O'Hurley navigated the remaining 300 miles back to Allied territory at wave-top height. When his wheels finally kissed the runway in France, his fuel tanks were reading empty. Ground crews rushed to his plane, their eyes wide at the sight of the cannon hole in the wing and the stress-damaged skin. O'Hurley climbed out of the cockpit, his flight suit soaked with sweat, his hands trembling slightly from the adrenaline crash. He had been in the air for just over 2 hours. The final desperate chase had lasted less than 12 minutes. The intelligence he brought back, the photographs of the rail lines and potential V2 sites, was invaluable. But his personal report caused a sensation. A single, unarmed, modified P-47 had survived an encounter with 8 Me-262s and lived. The technical details of his escape were analyzed by Allied intelligence. They confirmed the Me-262's vulnerabilities in a high-speed dive and at low altitude, intelligence that would be passed on to all Allied fighter units. For his extraordinary airmanship, unwavering courage, and successful completion of a vital mission against impossible odds, First Lieutenant Robert J. Bob O'Hurley was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. The citation read, in part, "By employing brilliant evasive tactics and utilizing the maximum performance of his aircraft, he successfully eluded the enemy and returned to his base with information of great military value." The legacy of this engagement is a powerful testament to machine and man. The stripped-down P-47 Superbolt was not a frontline fighter, but it proved that innovation could breathe new life into existing designs. More importantly, it underscored that even in the face of overwhelming technological superiority, the skill, courage, and quick thinking of a single pilot could turn the tide. O'Hurley didn't win by brute force. He won by understanding the battlefield better than his opponents, by using his aircraft's one transcendent strength against their many but exploitable weaknesses. It was a last, glorious victory for the age of the piston engine against the dawning age of the jet. The duel over Lake Muritz fades into the vast tapestry of aerial combat in World War II, but it stands as a timeless reminder that in the calculus of war, the human element is the final and most decisive variable. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War. Subscribe to WW2 Records as we continue to bring these forgotten chapters of history back to life.